SYNCED is a free-to-play companion shooter set in a post-apocalyptic future where you can take control of enemies and have them fight by your side. Next Studios, the youngest studio under the Tencent Games family, hopes to open up the possibilities and break new boundaries with its newest release. Did they deliver on their promise? Tune in to find out. This is the video adaptation of our SYNCED review article on GameMate. Check the full review link below. If you're expecting an MMO shooter to have a fairly light story, well, you'd be right. SYNCED's story is fairly simple. It kind of reminds us of how the Doom series built its story using passive world building and environmental storytelling, providing us with scattered tidbits of lore through recordings and literature throughout the game's world.
This isn't a critique, this is just to let you know the lay of the land.
The game is set in the future following the collapse, a catastrophic event where advanced nanomachines called nanos have gone rogue and have almost extinguished all human life on the planet. It focuses on a ragtag crew of mercenaries known as the Runners, combatants augmented with a technology that allows them to control nanos and have them fight by their side. You play as one of these runners in their quest to study its origins and uncover its mysteries while finding the resources needed by the last remaining human settlements. So yes, it's not surprising that the plot isn't dense, considering that the game is more focused on its gameplay rather than its story. Much of its world building is built through missions. Missions are basically there to serve as the driving force for you to understand the lore and its circumstances. Other than that, the game doesn't allow any significant interactions between the characters, and no character development ever transpires among them.
And just what were they up to?
The game paints a picture of a world filled with dubious scientific research done below the surface, even after the fall of civilization. But it would take an attentive and persevering player who cares enough about the story to fit these small details together in order to see the bigger picture. SYNCED's gameplay is an incredibly satisfying mix of shooter and roguelike elements that blend almost seamlessly. It's the one aspect this game gets right. The fast-paced gunplay is particularly fulfilling, with incredible feedback from your guns to shoot dozens of nanos that you'll have to defeat in short order. And if you're tired of guns, players are equipped with several tactical abilities that will help them quickly dispatch their foes. The game highlights your ability to control the nanos and use them against their own kind. In order to control these monsters, you'll have to beat the larger nanos called primes within an inch of their life, at which point a prompt will appear that will allow you to stab them, and that somehow allows you to tame these savage entities. With up to 3 allied nanos in the field simultaneously, each resulting encounter is hectic and exhilarating. While that seems like an interesting way to hook players in the game, the actual charm of SYNCED lies elsewhere. SYNCED has an extensive loadout customization system that you can use to personalize your characters. These customizations include your primary, secondary, and melee weapons with attachments, and equipping them with runner mods can either increase their performance or endow them with new abilities. You can also select which nano your runner will summon in the battlefield. But even with the amount of freedom that its customization provides you, it's nothing compared to the possibilities that the Meridian Exchange system does. The Meridian Exchange system is SYNCED's roguelike mechanic. It works by taking your hard-earned radia, a currency that you can collect by defeating nanos or from deposits across the map, and providing you with a choice between 2 randomly selected mods that you can equip. The effects of these mods vary in nature, from forcing enemies to drop explosives when they die, to increasing the range of your melee weapons. Although it's entirely possible to get mods that don't fit your playstyle or loadout at all. It's that random nature that can force players to play a little differently each time. Free-to-play games have to make money somehow. And so the way things are monetized here is through a gacha system. SYNCED's gacha system is focused mostly on allowing you to obtain more powerful weapons, and it encourages its players to invest their hard-earned pocket money through the use of limited banners and such. Being suckers for terms like limited or seasonal, players like us are prone to fall for their provocations and pay for a chance to obtain these items to flex and play with. However, there's no need to worry excessively about your pulse. There are 4 tiers for every weapon in the game. The weakest ones are the common tier ones, which often have no other effects other than left click to shoot and press R to reload. These are then preceded by rares, epics, and legendaries, all of which are only differentiated by the potency of their abilities and specs. And Sync's more easily obtained weapons, particularly the rare and epic ones, are already enough to arm you with enough teeth to get through the thick crust of Sync's content. You can also upgrade these item specs using weapon chips, which can be farmed with enough diligence. While these rare and epic weapons ultimately lose to legendary gear on effects and specs, players can still make up for the difference by playing more strategically. Brute forcing each encounter shouldn't be at the top of the ways you should play Synced anyway, as you will often run into walls that even powerful equipment can't punch through. As with most free-to-play games, grinding is a necessity to get stronger. Going through the game's main campaign includes clearing its dead sectors. These can be played either by yourself or with your friends. If you have no friends to play with, because they don't want to play, you'll often find yourself matching up with random players. But finding these random players might actually be more difficult, depending on when you join. Progressing through the campaign shows that nobody's incentivized to replay an earlier campaign mission, since the game's incremental scaling and generalized stage rewards pretty much discourage you from replaying previous areas. It would have been better if the developers implemented scaling rewards and specific mission-based loot to scatter their players across every campaign stage. That way, even those who are just starting can benefit from the help of others. If there's a point where a game's incredible graphics start to do more harm than good, then Sync's visuals are dangerously close to that breaking point. Sure, the game looks pretty, with a good amount of environmental storytelling on top of it, but due to its relatively low contrast models and the game's fast pace, you'll find yourself shooting at your teammates or ally summons. The only silver lining is that there's no friendly fire. While the visuals capture that post-apocalyptic sci-fi vibe well, the game's fast-paced and hectic combat would have also enjoyed a banging soundtrack to accompany the intense action. And while the game's voice acting is excellent, it suffers from the overdramatic dialogue that characters often spout in and out of combat.
You want to screw around or do you want to win?
However, Sync's sound effects are still noteworthy. Loud, punchy, and heart-racing, all the noises of unloading guns and screaming monsters raise the roguelike shooter experience to the next level. Synced is a textbook example of a game that focused too much on one or two things and ended up sacrificing everything else. With this, we're giving Synced a score of 6.6 out of 10. Sure, it has solid gameplay, decent sound effects, and pretty visuals. However, the game does have a lot of weak points. A soulless storyline, boring characters, the overall feel, and baffling monetization scheme take out a lot from the fun of the game. If you're just looking for a fresh game with fast-paced and hectic gunplay though, then Synced is one game you can look into. So, what do you think of Synced? What other free-to-play shooter games do you think we should cover? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to check out our full review article for Synced on our website, linked in the description below. We'll see you in the next one.